Welcome to Talking Junk.
I'm your host, Jason Melendez.
Live now every week on Fridays.
Talking Junk.
A multitude of professionals in different aspects, different walks of life.
You have to come on and talk junk like a normal person.
Welcome to Talking Junk, the podcast that comes to you live every Friday night from Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Sometimes I forget these people be changing their names so much. We have a great guest for you tonight. All right, we're just gonna bring her straight on. She's the founder of Ace Matters, Miss Cendie. How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing, Jason? How you doing?
Doing just fine. I'm glad to finally have you on the show.
Hey, and I'm like, hey, mama, come look at me. I'm on TV.
So how you doing tonight?
You know what? I'm staying out of trouble, Jason. That's my motto. Stay out of trouble and try to be the best person I can be on that day. And if I don't feel good, I ain't got to be around nobody that day. So, yeah.
There's a little bit of a time difference, right? You're 6 o'clock right now.
It's 6 o'clock where I am right now.
All right. So you're not getting into anything tonight? While you're on vacation?
Maybe not. Maybe not.
That's what you deserve, because you are a very busy woman and you have a lot that you're working for. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Ace Matters?
All right. So first off, it's called Aces Matter. It's the name of the it's all right. It's okay. It's Aces Matter, and it's a nonprofit that I started in Winter Park, Florida. So for those of y'all that are listening, ACEs is not something that I came up with personally. I just tagged the matter on at the end of something that some very smart people went out and studied, and it was like, we need to address these things called ACEs. And when you learn about them, you were like, oh my, those things really matter. So I realized I could put those two together, put them together. And I'm like, okay, now we got to get out here and teach people about them so that we won't end up having a lot of adults who need to heal from their childhood. So that's the essence of it. Like, hey, it's some stuff happening in people's childhoods that's hurting us later on in adulthood. And yeah, you know what? We don't need to put a wedge in this. So that's kind of why it exists.
So what exactly are ACEs? ACEs
are I would say, it's an acronym, first of all, and it stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences, ACE, right? In layman's term, if I was just hanging around talking to somebody that's just like, yeah, whatever, make it quick. It's basically 10 bad things that could happen to us in childhood that if we don't get treated for them, they're going to end up creeping back up on us in adulthood in the form of like depression, diseases,
generational curses, so to speak.
Generational curses. So that's like another way for people to think about it. But basically, there's 5 things that can happen to a child that are really bad, and they're in the terms of abuse and neglect. Okay, so there's 5 in that bucket, and these are things that would happen directly to the child: sex abuse, physical abuse, like getting beat all the time, like whoopings is your only form of punishment. Physical neglect, either not eating the right foods or not eating at all. Also physical neglect, clothes and stuff, and then emotional abuse and physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, emotional neglect, and physical neglect. Okay, so those 5 things are things that happen directly to us as kids, right? And then you got the other 5, which makes the 10. Okay, the other 5 are things that kids witness as a child. So if I witness these 5 things, my mom and my daddy fighting, or just domestic violence, that's going to do something to a child. If I witness somebody in the house on drugs, if I witness somebody in the house addicted to drugs or alcohol, if I witness somebody in the house go to jail or prison, if my mom and dad or caregiver, whatever, separate or abandon me, that's one of that. So the other 5 are things that happen to kids, where the first 5 are things that happen directly to the kids, and while the other 5 of the ACEs are things that the kids witness. And all of it is just pretty much like, we can fix it, right? Like if they're telling us that these things are happening to the kids, basically here's what their adulthood is going to look like. And they ain't lying. Like, you detect no lies when you really look into it.
So there's scientific evidence pointing to these generational curses causing adverse effects when you're an adult.
Yep. Yep. And actually, the adverse effects start in childhood, but they get diagnosed as like ADHD.
Okay.
Right? They get diagnosed as, you need to put that kid on medicine, or that kid's just bad. And what we end up learning from this study is that a lot of these kids were being sexually molested and nobody was talking about it. And Jason, what we know in the work that we do is no matter if you are an infant or if you about to be on your last breath at 190, whatever, right, all behavior is a form of communication. So these kids are being misdiagnosed, and I'm not a doctor, right? I just read this stuff, I study it, I try to break it down for people. These kids are acting out because nobody's listening.
Right.
Right. And so now they become adults who can't get along with people at work, or who can't stay in relationships, or who out there thoughting because they thought that thoughting was the only way they can control their body because Uncle so-and-so was molesting them when they were a child. So thoughting is my only way of controlling what happens to my body this time around. So it's like huge. Yes. So all that to say it's scientific, and sadly, Jason, like not enough of our population of people know about it. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get more people like us out here talking about it so that people want to do something about it in our own neighborhoods instead of waiting for, some of our government funded programs to come and help when people are calling
we'll be
in
waiting
with
forever for those.
Yeah, I ain't trying to throw no shade, but we know it's a broken system, right? Like it's a very broken system. So, yeah.
Now, what are some of the things you do in the community to try to present the outreach?
The outreach really involves people out of the community. So, Jason, what I'm doing now with ACEs Matter is we're finding people that we are calling zip code heroes, and we're dedicating our education and like resources to zip codes that need to hear about this information. So really it's people like you and me extracting y'all out the community. Hey, you care about this cause? If we can fix this, this is how your community can benefit. Let's get back in your community. And Jason, now you become a zip code hero, and you've dedicated this conversation to people that live here. They need family therapy. We got y'all need somebody to coach you and help you with your child. We got you, right? You just got to be willing to say, I'm ready to break these generational curses. Let the experts help me out. But if you don't know what to ask the experts, the stuff doesn't get addressed.
Right. So when you how many kids do you have in your programs now?
I don't deal directly with kids. I work with adults.
Okay.
so right now,
do you have in the program right now?
I've got 5 adults right now that are referred to as like my podcasters. So these 5 adults actually get their own show produced by us. So we give them content that we want them to talk about on their podcast. And then we give them people to interview on their podcast that know what they're talking about in relationship to like things related to ACEs. So like counselors and therapists. So we teach them how to interview the therapist, and then we give them the content to talk about to whoever comes on their show. So we produce a show, and then they dedicate that show to a zip code.
What is this show? What are some of these shows titled?
Last night's show, for example, this guy is out of Tupelo, Mississippi. So I'm in like 7 different states right now. I have people in 7 different states that are doing this. And
what
so
states are they?
I'm New York, Maryland, Kansas City, Texas, Florida, and Atlanta. Did I give you 7? I felt like I'm in Mississippi.
Okay.
Was that 7? I always forget.
I lost count. Halfway there.
Yeah.
I didn't put my fingers up. But
so
no, that's great. So you're stretching out through the South pretty much.
Trying to do this 2022 will focus just on those 7 states, maybe one more, but which is Phoenix, Arizona, which is more going towards the other direction. Right. But right now, most of my talent is located in the South and then East Coast. I got 2 in the East Coast.
Does it come out on public access TV or like
so we just piloted this idea, and we do Facebook. We go live on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. We've done a couple live Instagrams and then a couple pre-records between YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn. So it also gets broadcast to LinkedIn. So we're building our followership right now, but we're doing it just by using everyday people out of the community that want to do something about it.
Are you we spoke about doing live events. So when will you start doing your live events?
Like in person?
In person, yeah.
Like having things?
Yeah.
Our first.
You spoke a little briefly about some stuff you might have coming up.
So my first live event is actually going to be a comedy show in October. So like this is unrelated. So this is actually a fundraiser. So I'm gonna put a plug in for the fundraiser. So we're gonna have a comedy show in October in the Winter Park area, and it is called Axe Out Aces. Axe Out Aces. So it's mental health is no laughing matter, but it's going to be a fundraiser where we're going to bring in local talent to come in and do some stand-up acts and also have some poetry at the beginning. But the whole idea is to make sure that the people understand that this is a fundraiser for the cause to get more awareness out there about ACEs. But the comedians are going to be informed on ACEs. So they're going to build that into their act. But again, mental health is no laughing matter. So that's one of the events I want to put a plug in there for. More information
awesome.
to come.
No, you can plug everything, your website, everything. Make sure you keep everything rolling. We'll get everything out there because this is not only going to air on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Right after this is going to go straight onto the podcast website, Spotify, Apple Pod, Google Pod, iHeartRadio. We're going everywhere with this.
I love it. You get your voice out there. I need to grow up and be like you. I'm trying
to grow up and be like you.
I'm just playing around right now. Look, I'm going to leave a place better than we found it. But Jason, you asked what are some of the shows about. So I do want the audience to know, if y'all listen to this live or you watch the replay, that if you were emotionally abused in childhood, basically if your parents just talk crazy to you, told you wasn't going to be nothing, or it didn't even have to be your parents. It could be a caregiver if you were bullied. But last night's show was about a man sharing his story about being emotionally abused in childhood, and how later on that affected his body and he developed these diseases as a result, which is in the study. Like, we're not making this up, right? And none of the doctors could tell him, like, where it originated. And then it turns out there was a lot of abuse in the home, that a lot of it was verbal, that was just causing all of this toxic stress in him. And so obviously toxic stress is like a poisonous cocktail just brewing in our bodies. And by the time we get of age, our bodies are not. Anyhow, so last night's show was like overcoming an emotionally abusive childhood. We've had victims of sex survivors talking about it. We've had people from prison talking about their experience with drug dealing and the music industry. So, I mean, there's no ceiling with this conversation. It's just about bringing the conversation to the table with the right faces.
Now, is it hard to get those jail interviews?
No, these were two people who had been in jail, and then now they're using what they experienced with their upbringing as a child, their incarceration, and then now this guy actually teaches other prisoners about ACEs. So he was on the show, and then somebody who had been in jail for drugs, he came on the show to talk about what it was like. His son having to watch him leave to go to prison, which is an ACE, right? His son at 5 years old lost his dad for like 17 years because his dad got sent to prison. So talking about like the emotional impact that has on kids when your parents are arrested or incarcerated.
Yeah, and we act like it's just normal everyday life, but it really does have effect, and it has more effect than you think. And just little actions have more effect than you think. Now you said you have 7 states, almost 8. Are you planning to try to take this nationwide?
Yes, we're gonna have a footprint in every state, Jason. Like, that's how big it is. That's how big it is. People overseas talking about it. California is actually leading the initiative talking about it. But again, Jason, my issue is we got to get beyond talking about it at these conferences, right? We got to start getting in these communities like the Avon ladies or Jehovah's Witness knocking on doors, like, come over to the community center. We want to tell you, like, instead of spanking your kid every time, or instead of like, taking your kid to go fight, when somebody pissed them off. You see how kids just turning up in school because their parents showing up trying to fight for them. It's like, we got to teach these kids how to respond in a way that doesn't end up violent, and they're learning that in childhood, and parents don't even realize. We'll say, oh, they'll forget about it. They're young. They won't remember that. That's a lie, and so we just want to debunk some of the stuff that was taught to us in our generation. So I think this is our calling as this generation of people, who are starting to wake up. Like, we got to start doing stuff different, because some of these kids and groups of people are just getting left way too far behind, and something just ain't adding up.
Yeah, no, definitely. Now, is it hard for you to find these professionals that you have on these shows?
No, not at all. Now, good talent is one thing, right? So because I'm putting people on the microphone, obviously they got to be screened, like they got to be comfortable in front of the microphone. But so no, it's not hard.
That's another battle all on its own.
Yeah, but you know what, Jason? You see how many people then popped up with podcasts and vodcasts, whatever you call them, on YouTube, and now like people are popping up. The problem is that we've got all these pockets of conversation talking about my childhood or my trauma or my abusive boyfriend or my mom ain't nothing or whatever. So all these people are like using these platforms, but they don't realize you're talking about ACEs. Come over here. So I kind of like stalk people to find people to do this work for me, and they do it just because it's a good cause. Social work, foster care, prison system, like no lie.
We're definitely gonna get those vlogs that you do, those podcasts that you do on those podcast platforms.
I need to do that. I ain't got the bandwidth myself because it's just me and all my volunteers. But
no, trust me, you do.
Yeah, I need that. We need it like loud. We want to be like the loudest voice on social media talking about these things until people start to make sense with it, hopefully doing something about it. But it's real talk. So you saw my story, right? Like my ACE score is a solid 10. 5 happened to me and I witnessed 5, and that's like being nice. But I ended up having an adult that like stepped in, a mentally healthy adult that stepped in and like was able to, get my butt out the hood before I ended up like everybody else,
And now you're trying to be that person for everybody else, which is the best thing. You're a saint all in your own. I'm
trying. I didn't hurt a whole bunch of people's feelings along the way. I didn't know.
Sometimes you have to.
Now we got an excuse. We can say it's my ACEs. I just blame it on my ACEs. Anytime I just blame it on it's my ACEs. It's my ACEs.
Yeah, but you can't coddle everybody either. Some people have to be told the hard, cold truth.
Yeah. So. And you know what, Jason? What the scientific community calls ACEs, a lot of us say that's culture. That's code. Right. We don't tell what's outside the house. That's code, right? Like, and this code that we've been keeping right now, I've been effing up a lot of adults. Like, adults grow up and they can't get along with nobody. They can't stand no relationships. They doing stuff with their kids they shouldn't be doing, and it's all because code said you can't talk about what happens in our house. Code gonna mess us up.
You're also not changing it. You're not thinking about it, but you're not changing it either.
Yeah.
So
generational curses, like you said.
Yeah. It's real. What are some of the things that you can suggest right now to somebody that is listening to this or will be listening to this and are going through some of these ACEs at the moment?
The number one thing I would recommend that has worked for at least me and a few other people that have shared the same testimony is go and take your ACE score. Go and get your ACE score. You can do it on acesmatter.org, or you can just Google ACE quiz, ACE study quiz. It's going to ask you 10 questions. Start there, because that number, I don't want people to walk away like, oh, another label. It's not that. That number allows you to know what risk could be in front of you if you don't start doing stuff like meditating, right? Which is a hard one for a lot of people, right? Walking once a week. And again, I'm not a doctor, but talk to your doctor about it. Like talk to your doctor about it if you trust that, but nothing else. Get your ACE score. And if you're struggling as an adult, whether it's in relationships, keeping jobs or whatever, there are coaches and therapists and counselors that will walk you through this, right? Like you would take your car to get the oil change or the tire change because you don't know how to do it. You take your mind to one of these people and let them help you through it. because of the stigma associated with that's a lie. There's a lot of lies detected in the stigma. Those people can't tell nobody what you tell them. So like get you a coach or get you a therapist after you find out your score.
And there's a lot of stigmas in that all in its own too. Like people from our community don't want to go to therapy.
Mm-mm.
They think it's invasive, or they're too proud, or multiple reasons. Most of them more than likely being aces. But it's hard.
Yeah.
That's also a generational curse. You got to go out and make sure your mental health is one of them. And it doesn't have to be therapy. This could be, like you said, meditation, walks, retreats.
It won't happen overnight, though, right? I mean, all of those things. Yeah, it's like just one thing, right? Like,
it's just like AA for your emotions.
That's it. That's it. Because you see how much violence is happening right now in the community with kids and like fighting. It's like you look on the news and every other day or social media, something trending where somebody that went off.
It's been like that for 20 years. It's
too
just
long.
Evolved. Yeah.
Too long. And it's like they get more and more savage, right? Like little stuff. Like I saw the guy who did our live a couple of weeks ago was talking about like this girl got mad at her boyfriend because he dumped her. And she went and took his dad's urn, like where the daddy, like when he died, he turned himself into ashes and they like had it in the urn. So to get revenge, she took his daddy's urn and she poured his ashes out in the trash. Now, he gonna whoop her, so it's like, just think, like, why, so we really want to like use this program to help people understand our people. We have to learn how to pause, and we have to understand as adults, if these kids are seeing these 5 things over here, you're creating a little monster because it's programming, right? You go create a little monster if there's not an intervention, and then you're going to be thinking it's the kid's fault. So we just want people to understand. You can't blame
everything on TV and music.
You can't. And so we want them to look, we want to teach them like how to look for signs and like, how to talk to their kids, especially about the sexual abuse and then domestic violence. I mean, there's so much in it, but we got a big old plate to fill.
Now, do you have a place where these people can call in these states that are having these problems?
Normally, it's mostly the hotlines. And I will tell you what ACEs Matter is working on right now. Our goal is to make sure that we we can refer people out to other people who specialize in this. And if money is an issue, we try to help with that part. So there is like an intake form people can fill out on our website. But long of the short is there are abuse hotlines that people can go to in all of their states and local cities. I mean, there's unlimited amount of resources. It's just a matter of people like being comfortable making that call if they really want to get help.
Break those chains.
Yeah, break the chain. Do it for the kids. Do it for Jerry's kids. We got to do it for the kids.
No, you got to do it for Cendie's kids.
We got to do it for Cendie's kids. There you go. I like that. That's got a ring to it. Got a ring to it.
Don't worry, we'll make you a graphic.
All right. So you feel like you learned a little bit of something about ACEs? Because I know I get all excited when I talk about it, but you feel good about it?
Yeah, no, I feel very confident about it. And the way you present it is very non-threatening. So I'm hoping that you can get these people to join more and break more of these generational curses.
Generational curses.
And we definitely want to see you in more states.
I do. So what you said you were from New York?
I'm originally from New York, but I'm here in Florida now.
Okay. One of my reachers is in Brooklyn, New York. I love him. He brings it on his show. So he's a really good interviewer too. And he's a mental health therapist in Brooklyn.
Now, why don't you shout some of these people out that you got working for you?
Okay, good. I'm gonna send it to him. So I want to shout out to my boy David Abinger in Brooklyn, New York. Shout out to the real K-Mo. He's also a musician and he's also a student. Actually, he got his degree in psychology, so he raps. He's got a degree in psychology. His name is Shaquille Bullock. He goes by the real K-Mo. Listen to his music. It's really dope. His mom, it's a mom and son show. So his mom is Shamara Moore. She's located in Kansas City. So they have a duo show that they do together. And they shows have been really live. They've interviewed a couple of like local celebrities too. And then I want to shout out my girl Reba. Reba is a domestic violence coach in Wisconsin. That's a state that I didn't say earlier. So I got Wisconsin. So shout out to my girl, Reba Bell. She's one of the reachers, and she's a phenomenal domestic violence coach. She's overcome domestic violence herself, and she's given her gifts back that way. And then I'm missing Michael in Tupelo, Mississippi. Shout out to Michael Segal in Tupelo, Mississippi. That's it. I'm going to stop.
You don't have to stop, but I do have to say we have to have every single shout out as an interview on this show.
Gang. That's a part of the agreement. Like, y'all got to go on other shows. I got it. You got it. Bring them on there and have them tell you a little bit about what they've been doing and how they trying to help people. Cool. I love
spread
it.
The word. Spreading the word is all we're about.
Even if we reach one of my guys says that's better than none. So I'm like, if we save one, we save a generation. That's what we're doing.
Definitely. Excuse me. And these shows, like I said, we're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. We'll be on, as you can see on the bottom there, we'll be on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Pod, Google Pod. So this will be, your aces are going to go through a few states in the United States, some countries out there. So we're gonna bring it a little wider. And I want to urge. I'm gonna take you up on that. Now you committing to that on live, so you're gonna help me with that. Definitely. And just by having you on the show, we're helping you here, and we're gonna definitely have every one of those people on. I'm very interested in the mother-son duo too. I want to hear about their show.
We should do like a panel. I don't know if it'll fit all of us, but it would be cool to like do like a panel, like just hear from them.
We do on Saturday nights. We do one called the Break Room, and we have a lot of people on. So it'll definitely work. Fun. If you guys want to come on another Friday night or another Saturday night, we can have up to 10 people on. So you can bring as many people as you want.
That's a cool idea. I love that. Cool. All right.
Now, I want to thank you because your vacation. Your downtime is important because you are a very busy woman trying to help the community in several different states.
I appreciate it.
No, we appreciate it. We appreciate you being on. So before we let you go and have your rest and relaxation, why don't you tell us all where we can find you and where we can find Aces Matter?
Support the cause by following us on Facebook.com/Aces Matter, no spaces. You can get us on at Aces Matter, at Aces.Matter on Instagram, and then it's pretty much Aces Matter everywhere else. So LinkedIn for my professional people like to read articles, but all the hyperlinks to the social media pages are on our website, acesmatter.org. So save yourself a trip. Just go to acesmatter.org, scroll down to the bottom, and you can follow any one of the social platforms. Get some good stuff. We promote a lot of other people's material, so we give a lot of good tips on how to notice aces and work on them.
And as you can see, I got it up on screen right here.
Yeah, there we go.
Acesmatter.org, ACESMATTER.org. Make sure you get that. Make sure you go. Look, see right at the bottom there. You can take your childhood advisory quiz. You can join, share your story. Oh, and you can advertise. So
you can advertise. You can advertise your product on our show. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Appreciate you
so much. We're going to be in touch. We're going to do a lot of things with you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
We're here together in Florida, and I am definitely interested in getting hooked up with a nonprofit, and yours seems like the best one for us.
And you know what? We should interview that one guy that connected us. I didn't forget his name. We're going to have to get him on the show if we could slow him down a little bit. You know who I'm talking about?
I do, because it's a funny story. And before you go, I'll tell it real fast. I'm driving home from work.
Yeah.
And I drive home from work really loud.
Mm-hmm.
I'm blasting my music, and all of a sudden on the medium, I see this guy walking, and he has a marionette puppet, and he's rocking that puppet. So I stop him and I give him my information. I say, I would love to have you on the show. And Saturday morning, 8:00, I get a call from Cendie.
Yeah.
Groggy, hello.
Yes, you remember that.
I remember. And we definitely gonna have to have him on. Definitely.
So George started learning about ACEs because I was going to get, that's his name, George. He wanted to learn about ACEs to go teach the rest of the houseless people about ACEs. So that's how deep it is. Because when he learned about it, he was like, so that's why I ended up getting into all these drugs. I was like, yep. So yeah, we're going to have to bring George on the show. I'm going to reach out to him when I get back to Florida.
All right. Yeah. And you got my number. We'll be in touch.
Yep. All right, buddy.
Thank you. You have a wonderful night.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.